Today we have with us Akbar Baig from Team SkillShark, who will be delivering a presentation on business plan and investments, color them in tree, as part of the Formula Bharat Academy series. During this session, Akbar will provide a general overview on the creation and development of a business model and plan. Akbar is a passionate automotive engineer turned impact-driven entrepreneur, leveraging his skills and network to create the maximum impact through startups and initiatives. Akbar has been part of the Camber racing team during his undergrad and has participated twice at Formula Student Germany. He has worked with the design and development of 3 Formula Student race vehicles on the team. Akbar has co-founded an EV conversion startup, which was into the conversion of conventional vehicles into pure electric vehicles. His entrepreneurial acumen helped him explore various business models in the education and automobile industry. We will now begin with the presentation. Over to you, Akbar.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Yeah. You're welcome.
So good afternoon, everyone. This is Akbar here. And so today we're going to talk about business plan investments and how do we color them in trade. So when we say color them in trade, basically means pitch deck. So, like Kathy told, I have a pretty interesting journey of looking at both the industry side of things and the business side of things. It all started with my college back in 2013 till 2017. I was in SRM University and I was part of this team called Camber Racing. And while in Camber Racing, it was a very rich exposure of, being part of this amazing community of Formula student. And, basically it was like a real case scenario of, we trying to build cars and then, competing with universities and also building a business case around it is really amazing. While I was in my team, I could always spot $1 million team because, it's just like a typical startup. In any startup, you build a team of passionate people who come together, who are really committed to the product they are building, and eventually they try to bring it into the market. They try to do the market research. They try to build a business plan around it. They try to attract investors. They try to attract co-founders. They try to have the best team. So they do all these activities. So in a nutshell, being part of this Formula student community really gives us that edge. And I was fortunate to be not just associated with the business team, but I was the aerodynamics engineer for it. I worked on computational fluid dynamics, and I worked on design and development of the aero package. And I was fortunate to pitch the business case in Formula Student Germany in 2016. And this exposure of my college life and Formula Student community always gave me an edge. So right after my college, I never took 9 to 5 jobs because I was so much fascinated with this kind of a lifestyle where at one point you're designing the vehicle and the other point you're testing the vehicle, and then in middle of which you're fabricating it and then you're competing it. So it's very, very, very challenging. So this is a similar sort of a journey that you experience when you are part of a startup or when you are starting up. So this is where I was fortunate to, one of my recent and most exciting startups was converting normal cars into pure electric. And currently we've pivoted to, SkillShark, which is basically a skill development startup focusing on upskilling people on electric vehicles. So it's quite an interesting journey. So before we start and before we go ahead, there's a deep purpose to this, business event in the entire Formula, Bharat season, because, it actually gives you a feel of being, founder or co-founder of a startup and really imagining, taking your product into the market. So basically, if you really want to, see yourself in the steps of a founder, then this is the place where you can be without actually building a product, without actually doing so much. So basically, in this session, we're going to focus on three categories. So one, is the conviction you have. So every idea starts with a conviction, and then you have to build a proof of that conviction, and then the third part is communicating that conviction. So holistically, these three parts or these three categories highlight about business models, business plan, and pitch deck. And yeah, so without any delay, let's go ahead. So like any idea, I mean, everybody gets thousands and thousands of ideas. I do get, and many others do get. And but eventually there's one idea that will be like a Eureka one. You'll feel like, oh, this can change the world, and a lot can be done. The moment you have this Eureka one, the Eureka moment, there are thousands and thousands of questions popping up. Some of them could be whether this is feasible, whether this will work, whether it's worth the risk, whether it's worth the time, whether people will take it seriously, whether there's a market out there. So there are so many possible questions. So in order to answer that, we have to do certain activities. So this is like the preliminary stage of understanding ideas and filtering ideas. So you have to strengthen your conviction. Like deep inside, you have a gut feeling that this is going to work, but your idea is always a baby to you, and it's always good to you, right? So this is where you need to take a step ahead. And if I get such an idea, first what I'll do is I'll talk to friends and then experts who are working in that zone. Maybe if I figure out a business model in hiring, I'll talk to the people into hiring, and I'll do some market research. I'll study competitors, and I'll try to do a survey if I'm not satisfied with the previous things. And then if I want to dig again deeper, I might try to post ads to see the kind of response we get. And there could be communities existing around that, so I could even reach them out. So these are the things that I do, and everyone would do. But after all the answers you get, there should be a framework, there should be a strategy to actually filter down whether the feedback that I got, the response that I got really makes sense or not, right? So this is where we have a three-dimensional framework. So what I call is desirability, feasibility, and viability. Unless you look at an idea after getting a feedback from different stakeholders from three different dimensions. The first dimension is desirability. You have to figure out whether the problem that you have identified and the solution that you want to deliver lies in the wants domain or the needs domain, right? Accordingly, like it will be a factor. Say if it lies in the needs domain, then it will be easier for you to sell, it will be easier for you to raise funding, it will be easier. And actually it will be a very tough problem to address in this competitive world, right? And if it is in the wants side of things, then you actually have to again dig deeper, with how much efforts you need to put to really deliver the solution, right? And the second thing is feasibility, right? So feasibility is where you see whether you are capable of building a solution, or do you have the right contacts or the right networks to make that possible, or even if you have funding, whether it is possible or not. And the third is viability, whether it's going to be a sustainable model, or or it's just like a tailwind of covid came, everybody started making ventilators. So that's good, like a project, but whether do we actually take it as a startup? So we can get real positive vibes when we look at a particular idea from all these three different lenses, the three dimensions. So after this activity, you have realized internally, okay, I've spoken to friends, I know that this makes sense and it seems logical from desirability, feasibility, and viability point of view. What next, right? So this is where you try to put forward your learnings of capturing desirability, feasibility, and viability on a business model canvas. So business model canvas is one of my favorite tools. So it acts as a filter to derive the best business models possible, right? If you could see, the centermost block is the value propositions block. So It's not what you sell to the customer. It's not the product that the customer is buying. It's actually the value he's purchasing, and it's actually the value you're selling, and it's actually the value that you're trying to bring him on table for him, either in terms of a product, in terms of a solution, in terms of a service. End of the day, it's a value. So in order to create this value, right, you need to have defined customers. You need to have a strong reasoning for what kind of customers, basically the target audience. You need to know whether those are B2B, whether those are B2C, or whether those are B2G. So you need to understand that. And at the same time, see, on your right side, you'll see that it's all about customers. On your left side, you'll see all the stakeholders that you need, all the resources you need to create this value, right? And bottom is the finances part, the cost structure and the revenue stream. So which, when come together, make it feasible for you to deliver this value for your customers. So this is the most interesting part. And the amount of time we need to spend Canvas should be maximum, because this is where on a single sheet of paper you can iterate a lot of business models. You can look at it from different perspectives, right? If you get the business model canvas right, then your potential business plan is already in place. Your potential go-to-market strategy is already in place. Your marketing strategy is in place. You know how to make money. You know what it takes to make money. You know how to structure the finances to actually make it possible. You know the potential collaborations or potential synergies you need to build to achieve these things possible, right? So business model canvas appears to be the most simple thing, but it's the most crucial thing, because if you get this wrong, then your plan is not in place. And most importantly, a business might not start with a business model and end up with the same business model, right? For example, if you look at Facebook, it is not what it is today, as it was a few years back or back when it started, right? So business models are something that evolve over time, that evolve with your experience, your market feedback, your market reception and all. See, whenever you have an idea, it's basically an hypothesis, right? It might work, it might not work, right? This particular hypothesis, when taken forward, see, when you don't build a product, you have certain questions. When you build a product, you have some more clarity on what you want to do, what you're trying to build, and where you're heading. And once you deliver the product to the first set of customers, then you have another level of feedback, right? Which is where you understand that this really makes sense or this does not make sense. And you go a step further ahead, you make a launch, then you understand, then you get a community feedback. So business modeling is a continuous process of optimizing, and anybody who sticks to rigidly sticks to just one business model will get carried away over time, will get like it will not be able to achieve a sustainable business model. So this is one of the most important blocks. And not just business plan, but also for a very, very strong pitch deck, you need to get this right. So okay, now that we've understand that, our conviction deep inside our gut feeling told that, okay, this particular idea is really amazing and this has been captured beautifully on a business model canvas. What next? The next thing is to, document the proof of this conviction, right? You alone know the problem. You alone know the intensity of the problem. But right now we have to document. So this is where business plan comes into picture, right? So, previously it was all about, okay, this is how we'll make money, this is how we'll build this product, this is how. Now business plan captures the details of, how are we going to build the product? How are we going to go to the market? What is our penetration strategy? What is our distribution strategy? And who are our competitors? Deeply analyzing them. Basically you have to put forward your conviction, quantified with numbers into, measurable factors in the form of a very strong document. So basically we need to quantify the opportunity. right? So if we are solving a problem, how big of a problem it is in terms of dollars, whether it's in billions of dollars, whether it's in millions of dollars, and in terms of execution. So what's your plan of action? What are going to be the different timelines of delivering the product, building the product, testing the product, piloting the product, and building a proof of concept? And what's the strategy behind every activity you do? how do we how do we bring finances in place? Where do we exactly need funds? And what could be the potential projections, right? So this is a document that you want to share it with your potential stakeholders, and which is why it should capture everything, right? Say imagine you're trying to go for a long drive, right? So so for example, if you want to get more friends to join you on that ride, right, and it's a very risky one, right, then you need a very detailed documentation. You need to be answerable to everything they question. So this is how it is. So till now it was just an hypothesis. A plan and getting an idea and building something on canvas is fairly easy, but the reality is quite different. So your business plan should embrace the reality, right? Initially you are very excited, it's a eureka moment for you, and then slowly, as you start digging deeper, there are things that you know uh, might feel that these are setbacks and all those things. So it's your conviction that actually drives you to identifying the product market fit. So until you get to this point called product market fit, you don't know whether you have built the right product, or whether you're delivering the right product, or whether it is accepted by the market. So this is where every startup strives hard. So we need to capture these details on a business plan. So one way I do that in whenever we try to raise funds and all, is I try to map a timeline to capture the minute details of our business plan, right? Say for example, right, uh, see for example, where do product development and our operations come into me? When does our revenue actually starts kicking in? When do we actually need funds, right? So till what time we are in stealth mode? When do we define our launching? When do we hire the right candidates? When do we scale up? So all these things have to be captured on a business plan. So why I'm stressing this is because this is the level of clarity we need to have, right? So coming to the third part of uh, the category is communicating the conviction. Fair enough, you got a good idea and you have documented everything that revolves around it, and now it's the time you communicate it. So you can't send your deck all at once to all the VCs, angels out there. Sorry, I mean your business plan, right? So because those are heavy documents, those are the details that would take a lot of time. And when it comes to VCs, angel investors, and all, they receive thousands and thousands of decks every every day, hundreds of decks every day. So which is where you need to create a strong pitch deck, which captures your narrative, which captures your conviction, which captures your research, which captures your proof of concept and all. So basically, it's an art of communicating a plan, an opportunity, conviction, and a vision. So the beauty lies in the fact that in just 10 minutes you have to communicate your vision. You have to communicate everything, and with a limitation of just 10 to 12 slides. So how well you do that will take you to the next round. So there's a general saying: if a person is interested to meet you, he'll call you for a second meeting, and if he denies after the first meeting, then he's not interested in you. So this is where, in order to get into the real negotiation or discussions with an investor, this is the first barrier. Whenever you drop a mail saying hi hello to any investor, the response to your hello would be please share a pitch deck. So this is how crucial it is. So so basically, of a lot of time I've spent on pitch decks and all, there are certain key elements of winning with a deck, right? Of getting the second appointment, or the second meeting with an investor. So you have to effectively highlight the problem that you're trying to solve, a story. So basically, if I'm a formula student, so generally I always use the formula student story whenever I'm pitching, right? So this is where I tell you, okay, back in my university, back then when I was building these amazing projects, these were the things that were there. These were the things that that were not there, and this is how we can solve this. My experience actually positions me to solve this, and it actually helps me address this. So this is how you need a very strong story, because like if you directly start with the problem, right, nobody knows on what grounds you're talking about the problem unless you correlate it with a strong narrative, right? So this is where figuring out a narrative is very, very important. Say for example, if the story involves somebody else, right, if you're telling about somebody else's story, right, it might not be a strong deck. But if you talk about yourself, say for example, I've been go-karting since say, I mean, 12 since I was 12 years old. And then after so much time that I've spent in, associated with the go-kart racing and all, these are the things that I noticed. These are the things that are there. Or you can say that I was part of this community, and this is not just my problem. There's a huge community out there that faces this problem, and this is the solution for it, right? So you basically, as a team, you also need to show that how connected you are to the problem, right? So I cannot be like, I'll try to do something in the farming sector. So I'll do something, I'll start a cab service or something like that, right? Of course you can do that as long as you can connect the story or build a narrative, right? And market size, right? Say for example, what happens, imagine what happens if Adidas says that everybody with two legs is a market for me. So that's not possible, because you have to be very specific, and you need to quantify them properly, right? So there's one thing called total addressable market. So given a scenario where you are fully pumped and you have all the money in this world, right, what is the maximum potential that you can achieve? What is the market size you can capture? So how big it can become? So you have to communicate that on one of the slides, right? And the fourth thing is, do you have an edge over others, right? Of course, you'll never be the first one solving the problem, right? you know uh, Likewise, like, before Facebook existed, there were Orkut, there were many other social media platforms, right? So competitors always exist, and we have to be honest in doing this research. And how well you do this actually helps you figure out your competitive advantages. So this is where you have to spend ample time in communicating, and in communicating to an investor that, okay, this is how we stand out, this is our edge, right? And then okay, this is all theoretical, okay, this is all that could be done with pen and paper, right? Now the next thing that an investor would be interested in is that, what are you building? So whether it's just a design that you have, whether it's just an MVP, whether you have patents to prove that what you're building is amazing, whether you have some strong research publications, whether you have degree from really big universities, whether you have masters in something. So so this is where you have to prove that you're highly capable of building this product and actually launching it, right? And not just building a product, right? Sometimes it might fall insufficient. At the same time, there's another thing called, how do you prove that it works? Okay, just building the product is not enough. So this is where your market research comes into picture, your proof of concept comes into picture, right? If you can showcase, if you can communicate on this slide that, okay, we build this product and this is the user feedback, or this is the customer feedback, we've got 4.5 out of 5 ratings from so many users. And uh, if you can quantify numbers, their willingness to pay, right? Out of 10 users, 9 are ready to pay upfront. Or in a way, if you can tell that, okay, this is the number of pre-orders we are getting, and these are the number of leads that are getting. So you need to have traction, right? And again, a call to action is a very important thing, right? After highlighting all this, after highlighting that you're a good team, you're building a great product, you're solving a huge problem, there's a huge opportunity out there, and you are truly building it and you have traction around it. Now you need a strong call to action. So your call to action should differ with respect to different kind of investors you're pitching, right? Whether you're seeking a potential strategic investment, or whether it's just monetary funding, or it's angel funding, or whether it's institutional funding. So based on that, you have to build your offerings. And likewise, so the last but not the least thing on this deck should be a financial forecast. So this is like a report card that talks about how your scores will be in future. So this is where you have to put your numbers. So by just reading your uh, your financial forecast and all, your cash flows, your profit and loss statements and all, a typical investor can identify, can actually tell where you're heading, whether you're a growth focused company, whether you're profitability, whether you're going to be profitable in any time sooner, whether you are just a cash burning company, whether uh, you know so this is how, so that's how the financial forecast works into picture. So one of the most important things we need to remember is investors are investing in the co-founders, or in the founders, or the team that is driving the startup. So they are not investing on the idea, right? you know if they're not investing on the idea. They are all investing on the fact that, okay, this is a team, they are capable of building, and they can make this happen. They have actually proved that they can do so. So yeah, so this is briefly I wanted to cover. I wanted to spend more time on FAQs and all, so question answers. So yeah, we can go ahead with that.
Thank you, Akbar, for such an insightful presentation on the business plan and investments. We are open for questions. So if you do have any questions, you can type it in the chat box, and we will, Akbar will be answering them now. As of now, we haven't got any questions on the YouTube chat box yet. We will just wait for a few minutes, Akbar, and we'll check if anyone has questions, and we will address it.
Sure.
So we have a question from Shibu Matthew. Uh, he asks, while pitching to investors, do we show them the returns in ideal and worst case as well?
Right, Shibu. See, the thing is, you don't show these things on the pitch deck, right? But then, an investor would always like to know your exit strategy, what if things really go wrong and all those things, right? Then, you can justify through your research and all those things. And you have to be very positive, right? If you actually express your underconfidence to a potential investor, then he might, think about really investing in you. So you have to stress on what you are really good at. Maybe you should be prepared to answer his question whenever he says, how are you going to solve this? So you should have these plans and strategies in place.
Shibu, I hope that answers your question. We have another question from Agnijita Roy. what are the essential financial terms that are utmost important to include or must calculate? I'll repeat the question, Akbar. What are the essential financial terms that are utmost important to include or must calculate?
Right. So, there's nothing as such, one particular important term. Every kind of, say, if whenever you read a financial statement, there's a cash flow statement, there's your expense sheet, there's your profit and loss statement, and you have your break-even point and all. So when you try to, if you want to capture all these, you can't capture them independently. Everything is interrelated, right? And so this is how you say you first start with the fixed assets you need to purchase, and the unit economics about the amount of expenditure you need to add to actually deliver a service, the payrolls, the HRs, and all those things, right? So all these things are captured in the entire financial statement, and this comes as a whole bunch. You can't be very picky or choosy about it, right? What's more important to showcase on a pitch deck, or to be very conscious about, is the break even point. At what point you're going to break even, and what is the fund that is required, and when are you going to actually make profits and all. So these are some of the important things that you need, and what is the equity that you're willing to shell out. So yeah, so these are the couple of things.
All right, thank you. We have another question from Agnichta. She asks, can you elaborate a little on exit strategies?
Right. So exit strategies are something like, whenever, if say something is going absolutely wrong, and you need to figure out a way to justify all the stakeholders and all. So one such way could be, you could explore acquisition or merger possibilities with other similar companies, and maybe you could sell off your assets. Maybe you could liquidate them, or maybe you can get acquired. So these are the couple of ways we can do it, and there are pretty more. It differs from case to case.
All right. Thank you, Akbar. We have another question from Nevin Anthony. He asks, whom should be our target companies if we are talking about pitching funds for a motorsports company? I'll repeat the question again. I think he asks, what should be our target companies if we are talking about pitching funds for a motorsports company?
So, like, say if you want to raise funds for a motorsports company, right? So if you are a motorsports company and you want to raise funds, right? So that's when you need to scout for investors. There are different investors with different portfolio interests. Some of them could be interested on social impact. Some of them could be interested on SaaS platforms, or some of them could be hardcore mechanical or EV industry sort of people. So likewise, you have to identify the set of investors who have an active portfolio of investing in, say, motorsports companies and all. So they'd be the ones you need to identify. Most of them could be owners of some big racing academies, or owners of some racing teams, or something like this. So you have to figure out that way.
All right. Our next question is from Prashant Jha. He asks, what are the important points for a pitch a new team should take care of?
So excellent, Prashant. This is one of the best questions. You see, there is no thumb rule for raising funds or building a pitch deck. There's no thumb rule at all, right? As long as you can justify, that you are the right team and you're the right team to build this product, and you have everything that it takes to make this happen, or you have a strong background. So as long as you can communicate these things on a pitch deck, right, you'll have it. Or if you have a very unique sort of a business model innovation, right? So and if you can justify with your team and all these things, then you can also have an edge, right? So there are people who are able to raise funds with just an idea, nothing on paper at all. How do they do so? If somebody is from ex Google or ex Ferrari or ex Lamborghini, right? You know, if they over a call itself, they can crack a funding deal because their background actually proves that. So they'll stress more on that part of the pitch deck. So always push your strengths on your pitch deck.
Thank you, Akbar. Uh, if you do have any more questions, we will be all right. There is one more question that has come in. In a DCF model of a company, do we separately need to take into consideration about worst case scenarios of the company? I'll repeat the question again, Akbar. In a DCF model of a company, do we separately need to take into consideration about worst case scenarios of the company?
Yeah. So I'd like to mail you the response because yeah, I'll do that. So if you can share your email ID, I'll drop a detailed mail on this.
Okay. So if you could share your email ID, we can go ahead and send you a response to this. XYZ123. Or you can drop in an email at formulabharat@gmail.com with this question, and we will have Akbar reply to it. Okay. Akbar, we'll wait for another few minutes and check if there are any more questions coming in, and just before we can end the session.
Sure, sure.
All right, we have another question from Agnijita. We are a student team, so how can we show that we are compatible with the already established companies? I'll repeat the question. We are a student team, so how can we show that we are compatible with the already established companies?
Right. So first thing is like how closely you're thinking you're associated with the team, right? Your complete focus should be that you have designed a vehicle, you have actually built a full-fledged product, right? If you have this particular thing, you actually have everything that it takes to design a vehicle. You are more than capable enough. You are already established because this is assuming that you have built a car and then you are participating in an event and business case revolves around this. So keeping that in mind, you should never presume that you are not compatible and well. You just on a pitch deck you have to show that okay, what I know, what I can do, everything when brought together, it's $1 million or $1 billion opportunity. So as long as you can do that, then it's highly possible.
All right. Thank you, Akbar. Okay, I believe that all the questions have been answered and no new questions have come in yet. Okay, then, Akbar, I think we have come to the end of the session as we do not have any more questions that the students have to ask. Thank you again for your time and for such an insightful presentation on business plan and investments. And thank you for the questions as well, students. We appreciate attending this session. Um, Thank you for your time again, and we will be back again with a new presentation sometime soon. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Shan. Bye.
Thank you.